The galaxy wasn't rocked by the launch. It was the quiet that ensued. For 3 weeks, Earth. Don't broadcast anything. No recovery logs, no telemetry, and no triumphant press. Dead air following the test ship Odyssey's impact on the edge of the conference. Light rushed into outer space and disappeared. Every hearing and observation. From the Vaughn spiral to the Martian cradle, post became tense. Then it returned. Odyssey never came back the way it had started. 20 light-years from Earth, it resurfaced just outside the. Even the wary Ari dared not fly close to the Council's most sacred area, which is a neutral zone. Without 10 clearance levels. Nobody had ever leaped that high. Not by way of folded space, but not before destroying half their crew while in passage and tearing holes into subspace. No species had ever had the audacity to jump that far, that filthy, that unsteady. However, people had. And for some reason, the ship returned undamaged. No hull deformation, radiation burns, or even a corresponding heat signature. The models of the Council. The ship appeared to have disregarded the exact rules that Galaxy had revered for centuries. 3 hours following Odyssey's unexpected. The Interstellar Council called an emergency meeting upon his emergence. Additionally, that meant only one thing. They had been terrified of humanity. Within the Council chamber, a huge arena with a glass dome that circles over the twin stars of the Tvilvanas. Each of the main race's representatives sat in close rows of stress. With synchronized blinks of all 4 eyes, the Tranian diplomat's tendrils. As he went over the incident logs, he curled up with his data slate. The Valtari. High Speaker slapped a bony fist and screamed something filthy in her own tongue. On the table. Fear throbbed through the room. They jumped through the fade, one of them. Carol, the elder, snarled. They used physical force to bend quantum gravity. The slipstream harmonics were not computed. They pried it open. They ripped a moon-sized rift in subspace. The Chancellor of Sarnathi. A moon? Damn you. If that had collapsed. It didn't, a deep, gravelly voice said. Voice from the chamber's far end. Everyone pivoted. The individual. Commander Reeve, the representative, stood with his arms folded behind his back, his face unshaven and unreadable due to combat scarring. Eyes as dark as a vacuum. He was not a public figure. He wasn't begging here. He was a veteran, and his voice reflected that. Reeves stated, "We tested the drive. Moving forward. It worked. We successfully jumped. There were no injuries, no damage, and no loss of command. The Odyssey operated as planned." Someone growled, "That's not the point," but Reeve ignored him, saying, "Humanity is done. We've been hampered for centuries by the rules you all agreed to, while we wait for permission," he added. The wounds from its own wars were still visible on Earth. "We earned every inch with guts and fury as we slithered our way into the stars. And you want to throw us back in the cage now that we've managed to jump forward? We want to avoid genocide," the Valtari muttered. "Do you think this is a weapon?" Reeves' eyes flashed a little. "You exceeded the bounds of fortifications, treaties, and warning zones. For safe passage and caused a warp echo that was so powerful that it caused 4 satellites in the Pelon sector to fall." Reeves calmly remarked, "That wasn't our fault. Our satellites weren't built on assumptions, but yours were." And there it was, the eerie silence, the silent menace beneath the words. That only a man who has witnessed death firsthand could wear with such ease. This was not merely a scientific breakthrough. Power, the unadulterated, unquestionable force that gave the rest of the galaxy its. Recognize something horrifying: humans were no longer merely catching up. They were making things that weren't supposed to work, they were breaking the rules, and nobody dared to criticize them. They were more afraid of that than war since they were doing it without anyone's consent. Deep within a secret installation tucked away beneath the Greenland ice sheets on Earth. In front of the engine, Dr. Lennox, the man who created the FTL core, was by himself. He had been creating it for 14 years, and now it hummed continuously, as if it were alive. Although he was aware that the Council would threaten sanctions and possibly even war, he chose not to. Caring. He constructed the drive for the men who perished in the belief that Earth would never reach the. Because Earth tech was too busy, he constructed it for the youngster who saw his father burn in an ancient Earth shuttle catastrophe. He constructed it because humanity had been too slow, too late, and too antiquated to be important. Undervalued too frequently. Now. It was their moment to be terrified. Commander Reeve had just left. The Council days prior to his neural interface's private messages appearing. Cautionary tales, veiled. Frantic appeals and threats from Earth's political supporters. All species with A. Those in positions of authority immediately sought explanations, and none of them had faith in the ones they had just heard. Disregarding each of them, he turned on the secure line again to Earth. "Get me, Lennox," he said. A silent moment followed by A. Lennox's voice, already listening, crackled through the implant. It sounded bland and serene, as only a man who had no time for pretense could. "You witnessed their response?" "I heard it before you even entered the room," Reeve said. "The entire relay," Lennox said. "Grid is tapped." "I was hoping they would freak out, but they did, and to make matters worse, they believe it's a weapon." The other end fell silent, and then Lennox let out a low, resentful laugh. "That's because, albeit not in the sense they perceive it, it is Reeve." As Reeves entered the docking corridor, alien guards regarded him, and his jaw stiffened. One even groped for a scanner as he went by, showing a thin veil of suspicion. Reeve glared him down, and he stopped. "Explain," Reeve hissed through gritted teeth. "You're aware already. Compared to those diplomats, you have flown more missions and seen more planets," Lennox said. "You know how war begins," he added. "You are aware of what frightens individuals. At the moment, that engine terrifies them more than any fleet we've ever constructed." Reeve chose not to respond. Because Lennox was correct. The FTL-9 wasn't only quicker. Effective. It transformed everything. Earth had rendered ages in a single leap. Establishing interstellar barriers was pointless. Most races still found space to be slow. Hazardous and constrained by what the Council referred to as stabilized slip lanes and pathways, so